Hello, and welcome back to the Majestic channel. Today, we're going to be playing this new game. It's a free-to-play game on Steam. I've never played it before. It is called Dagon, which is, I believe, something that originated from a H.P Lovecraft story, which is the person who made Cthulhu, and the whole Eldritch and Lovecraftian thing. So this game looks pretty good so far just off the main screen, but let's start it. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations and along the plot. Alright?
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others will reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. Alright. Oh hey, the wallpaper is kind of like tentacles. Oh. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of reading here, isn't there? As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner, December 23rd, sorry, not the best at reading, 1917. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day. But his tendency to endlessly correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing, thinking anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page essay on the rings of Saturn. Select letters, 1929 through 1931. You can read that last bit. I'm not a very articulate speaker. You can read the discovered trivia immediately, or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find that the feature distracts you from the story. This can be changed. Oh, okay, so I guess it's just a tutorial.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Okay. Morphine, its use in the 19th century, was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the... Okay. I'll go and read through these. You guys can fast forward to after this if you would like. Don't want to hear me read. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Frederick Serturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Huh. So far, I really like the atmosphere of the game. The graphics are actually very good. Oh! Lovecraft in the Great War. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose the regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or pierce of shrapnel could more conclusively and effectively dispose of me. Letters to Reinhard Kleiner, H.P Lovecraft. Alright. Oh.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
Very beautiful game, I must say.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Always gotta... Oh. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During the World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Soon, should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given, prisoners will not be taken, whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May that name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. Interesting. So not only are we playing this very nice game, we also learned some history.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Any marks of the Elder? No, doesn't seem so.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Oh my goodness. This is beautiful and horrifying. Like, looking around, this is very pretty. It is. But alone in the night, beautiful starry night, not to mention. That's a actually beautiful moon set, whatever you call that. Very beautiful colors. Very pretty. But this is sort of a fear I have. If I had someone else there, I wouldn't be as scared, but just alone, in the dark, middle of the ocean, on a rickety wooden boat. If it's a regular boat, I'll be fine. Small rickety wooden boat, less than desirable. It's kind of freaks me out. What if something happens?
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Sucks for us, I guess. We going to the moon?
The weather kept
Oh,
fair, and for uncounted days I drifted
that's right.
aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Oh, there we go. Dagon was written in July 1917, first published in 1919 in The Vagrant, an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural. The story is the first of his stories that introduce the element from the Cthulhu mythos. Dagon itself, a pagan cult worshipping Dagon, later appears in The Shadow over Innsmouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. 1917 is also the year when he wrote The Tomb, a story about Jervis Dudley, a daydreamer who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house and becomes obsessed with it. These two works make Mark Lovecraft return to short story writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior and decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary publisher and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again. Very interesting.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know.
I think we're into the horror part now.
For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh. Okay, what the heck? Jesus Christ. Well, this is an interesting sight. You know, if I was dreaming and saw this, I would freak out a lot. Comment down below how you would feel if you saw this, whether in a dream or walking on the beach. Oh, is it a centipede? It's still very well made, which is the unsettling bit. Now, for context, for those of you who don't know this, I don't know if it's already been said in this, Dagon is supposedly like, I don't know if it's God or a demon or something, a being of the ocean, the sea, and all that. Very powerful being, which probably is explaining why we're in the ocean, why there's dead sea creatures, or alive through, I don't know, whatever verb you would use to describe what these things are doing right now, sea creatures.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Undulations and monotonous, that is a $4 word. That's like, it's like 6 syllables.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Where?
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. Also,
another thing I forgot to mention, this game also has a VR option, and there is 3 other DLCs, so if you want me to make a video on those DLCs or the VR, which is probably the exact same, just in 360 view, then let me know.
For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Oh, great. Heavens. What is that? That is, okay, that is a squid, maybe. That is, I thought, oh, it's some kind of weird snail. That's some starfish. And that is, I don't even know. If one of you is a marine biology geek, let me know what animals these are.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
Sorry, it's like 8 o'clock.
There was nothing
formally
here,
apologize.
and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
Aww, hey little guy, that one's kind of cute. He doesn't have like big tentacles or fancy anything. It's like those, it's kind of like a horseshoe crab or an isopod. He's kind of cute. Jeez, that thing isn't, that's like Cthulhu's mouth. With all the little tentacles and all that.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
I mean, I quite like the way you're portraying the sky in this. It's very pretty. That's what I would like the sky to look like. Starry, black, no clouds, with that nice tint on the horizon. It's actually quite nice. You're tripping. Quite literally and figuratively. Oh. Let me see any elder marks. Seems as not. Ugh! Why'd I have to make that noise?
As I crawled into the stranded boat,
Nasty.
I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
What?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
That is an interesting theory. A volcanic upheaval. I don't know what that means. But if you're suggesting that all the water in the world just disappeared, I would like a more detailed explanation. Or if you're saying that, I don't know. Okay, first let's look for an elder mark. No. I don't know if you can see that, but the mountain in the background is gyrating. Look very closely. You can see it's like a slime. It's breathing. That is horrific.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Well, that would just make things worse, wouldn't it? Also, some kind of weird I'm noticing. Oh, is that a fish or a seal? Okay, aw, hey little guy. If we look around, there's a fish, some mollusk, or whatever genus that is, weird slime, all in this area. If we look out into the distance, there's no more tentacles writhing around the air. It's only where we are, which I don't quite like. Makes me feel a little targeted, but it's okay, I guess.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Why is something moving in the shadows? I don't know if you saw that.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Personally,
that night
I
I
wouldn't.
slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
You know, if I was in the situation, hopefully I never will be, which, really, what are the chances I'm gonna be lost at sea in a boat after being captured on a German boat, escape, take a quick little nap, I guess, or whatever happened, and wake up to this? That isn't a dream. Tell me what you think about that. Like, you do a little, I'm not dreaming, and this is life now. Seems a little sketchy to me. And also, I don't know if I'm thinking too logically in this. If we're at the bottom of the seafloor because the water went away, if that's what they're saying happened, if you look in a direction, shouldn't you see a really higher rise of landmass since we're thousands of feet below where sea level originally was? Or am I just dumb?
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Ugh. Grotesque noise.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Jeez Louise, what is that? Oh, why? Is that like rock or is that a thing? That's definitely a thing. But what thing? It really did some attention to detail, which I very much appreciate. Considering this is a free game, it's actually very well made. Ugh. No! They killed the whale. That's very unfortunate.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
What object? Which, and what hummock? I'm not quite following. What is with these weird worms in the ground? Any elders? Horrors of the Deep Ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Relay was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the marlin snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 2,600 feet, below the ocean surface, in never-ending darkness and at hellishly crushing pressures hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures, such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, and the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. The fictional underwater city of Relay. Picture that. Later. Do some research on that. Alright. Let's keep going. Maybe he's talking about the big mountain. Could be.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Yeah, they do that. What is sparkling over there? You see that? I don't trust it.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Personally, I would not. Seems like a bad idea.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain.
What did thou dream about, my good sir?
I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
He did the like alliteration, the rhyming thing.
And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
Yeah.
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
That squelching noise scared me.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
I don't know what monotony means.
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Very pretty sky.
I felt myself on the edge of the world.
Oh, that sounds very existential or dreadful, whichever has more weight to it.
Peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
What? No. Am I gonna jump?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent. Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
I'm just saying, as someone who likes climbing stuff, that seems like a fun activity. To climb a cool underwater, or formerly underwater mountain.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
It's not that I'm like bored with this game or anything, it's just 8:26, so I have an excuse. Stygian. This game's using quite regal, royal, extravagant, big words that I don't understand at all. Because, well, I don't. Vocabulary like this, their H.P Lovecraft's vocabulary makes sense.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. an object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Huh. What is it? Some sort of...
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
When do we get to see the big squid man? Which, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about Dagon. Which I don't know if he appears in the story. I don't know what that noise was, but...
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
Very interesting. We gonna pray
Whose
that?
massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Do you now? Because I'm hearing weird noises, and I'm examining pretty closely and don't hear anything that should be making those skittering noises. Where'd that water come from?
Now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
When did those ruins appear on it? I kinda want one.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
Lovely.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
That one at the bottom is looking kind of freaky. I like it.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Just me, or is the one on the far right a lionfish? Definitely a lionfish. That's just a squid. Thing on the left, no idea. Thing second left, no idea. In the middle, what the badonkers.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
That? Oh. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling this story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness in English City, journals and characters' notes, Shadow Out of Time, The Haunter of Dark, Islands Emerging from the Ocean, The Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo and the Whispers in Darkness, so considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip in the details in order to not spoil the ending. Ooh.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
Don't know what a doré is, sounds French.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men. Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto. or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. For the mere remembrance makes me grow
I skipped something. I'm sure it's not important.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a poet
Oh.
or a bower.
Well, he's cute. That one looks familiar. That one looks like a beaver. That one, I don't know. That one kind of just looks like some really old guy, but very grotesque.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Oh, he's big then. Very big. Mucho grande. That's the right
As I
thing.
say, their grotesqueness and strange size. But in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
You're gonna say imaginary, and then in a few minutes, they're gonna give you the old and probably drag you into the depths of the ocean for talking smack.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
This game's very interesting so far.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Oh.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Jeez.
Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
You didn't have to be so abrupt with that. Okay. Oh wow, he's big.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh.
I think I went mad then.
Wow.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Can we see him down there? No. Jeez, that was...
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Oh, possessed. That's not what I thought he would look like. I always saw him portrayed more squid-like.
I have indistinct recollections of a great
Eel-like.
storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in the San Francisco hospital,
Okay.
brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
So far, very interesting. Which that last scene actually scared me.
In my delirium, I had said much.
I'm out of
My
words.
words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
Got a Jesus on the wall.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism in 1915. He started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he was also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. And this example expert from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction, explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. With any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm one or more nations, would undoubtedly retain secret armaments, and at the proper time take advantages of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until those basic impulses of the human animal shall have been miraculously changed. Makes sense. I can see that.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Fish god. There he is. Where is my blood altar at? It's a very nice room. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as a judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem, and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He's often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the ocean. He's worshipped by a secret cult called the Historic Order of Dagon. I have heard a bit about that, which I think is very interesting and something I wish there was more info on. And more lore too, because it's actually a very interesting thing. So I wish there was just more.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Necronomicon, that's the thing that summons ghosts and demons and all that. Oh, it's good to have one or two lying around. Let's read this. Auguste Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrast with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misinterpreted in today's culture. It also is worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane, after he died. Hey. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted in defense of Dagon that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were of the opinion that man of science resembling the term man of letters was the only proper choice among other things. It was gender specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. Very interesting so far. I hope you're enjoying.
When the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Back with our vial, used needle, and morphine syringe. What a lovely night.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Well, you shouldn't have done that. You know.
So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Oh. So does that mean he's gonna unalive himself, or? Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with a friend, Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also has a very strong opinion of alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zella Brown, dated 13th February 1928. I'm sorry. As for the matter of drinking, I've never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate, natural exploit of the involved human intellect and imagination. Drinking exciting my personal repugnance. Hence, I don't drink. Let the do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as one another. Huh. So what's this? Why did he say he was gonna?
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
I have a very bad feeling.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Oh. Well. That is a lot of sea creatures. Well then. We're in New York, by the looks of it.
The end is near.
Whoa.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh, that's...
It shall not find me.
Hello.
God, that hand!
Oh.
The window! The window!
Ooh. Oh. Well then. That was Dagon. Oof. Very interesting game. I actually really like that. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment. Oh, Jesus Christ.
And scary stories have been accompanying men for centuries. They have many faces and forms. But what is their purpose? Why do we enjoy being afraid so?
Good question. I don't.
During our therapy, I'll try to
I'll check that out later. Alright. I would like to thank you all very much for watching this video. It's been a hot minute and I decided to try something new with this. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, comment, share, add this to your favorites, I don't know. Whatever you want to do. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I thought this game was very beautiful. If you want to play it yourself for some reason, it's free on Steam. It's called Dagon. Very good game. I enjoy it a lot. And thank you for watching. I've already said that like 5 times. And good night. Have a nice night.